All right, so hey, good morning, everybody. I wanted to talk about the hardiness zones, or the zones that we all live in, and why they're important. Because I started thinking about it, like, what are they? How do they come up with them? Are they really as important as you think they are, or they're made out to be? And then on top of that, I kind of have a different take on what's more important for all gardeners to know than the hardiness zones. But you do actually have to know what zone you're in, but I don't think it's as important as they make it out to be. So, hear me out. Okay, so right off the bat, let's do a little history on the hardiness zones, just so we all fully understand what they are and how they came about. In 1927, at the Arnold Arboretum up in Harvard University, this man right here, Dr. Alfred Reeder, hope I'm saying his name right, created the first zones to help gardeners. Now, about 9 years later, in 1938, this man right here, Dr. Donald Wyman, created and published a first map that became kind of the standard. He used 40 years of data going from 1895 all the way to 1935 to come up with his map. And he got all the data from the U.S. Weather Bureau. Now, this map basically became the standard map across the country. Now, in 1960, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, they decided to create their own map. They used data from about 450 different weather stations across the country to come up with their map. Now, those two maps had conflicting data, it's super confusing, but the majority of everyone used Dr. Wyman's map. That is until 1990, when the U.S. Department of Agriculture decided to create one hardiness zone map across the country. And that has been the standard ever since 1990. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's map took data from about 14,000 different weather stations all across the country, using their data to create what is now today the zones that we know, the hardiness zones that we all use. When they created that map, there were 11 zones. Basically, every 10 years they update the map. And what the trend is about every 10 years, the map zones move north about 13 miles. So the last updated USDA map was in 2012, at which point they added 2 zones, 12 and 13. So why is all that important? Well, it's important to know the zones. And I think as a gardener, you're out here in the garden, you should know everything you can possibly know about what we're doing. The history, the reasons why, etc., etc. And for me, I like to know how things are made, how they come up with stuff, why things are so important. And I got to thinking, why are the zones so important to know? So I started doing some research, and this is the breakdown of the zones. As you can see right here, the zones are broken down into 10-degree increments. Now, they take an average cold temperatures of each zone, and that's how they create the zones. So zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are all in 10-degree increments. Now, what is the A's and B's of zones? Well, that is where we further break it down into 5-degree increments. So I'm here in zone 9A. Scott Head over on Black Gumbo Southern Gardening is in zone 9B. And he's only like 50 minutes from me, but there is a break somewhere along between us. Average degree of cold is a 5-degree difference. So that's how they break down zones A and B within the big zone, the number zone. Why is it important to know what zone you're in? Well, you need to know the zone you're in because you need to know what average cold temperatures of your zone. Now, is it important to just be like, well, Texas, so I'm going to be in zone 9A? Well, no, because Texas is huge, and you could be in zone 7 all the way up in the Panhandle, and I'm down here in zone 9. So you don't just go off of, well, I'm in this state, this is the zone I'm in. No, actually need to know what zone you're in for where you live. And here's an example. Vermont has 3 different zones in that little tiny state, and it's all because of the elevation and the average cold temps. Arizona, for the most part, that entire state is between zones 9 and 10. But there are actual areas in Arizona that are so high up in elevation that that zone is actually a 4. So it's incredibly important to know for your garden, where you live, exactly what zone you are in. Knowing the zone you're in lets you know to me, what the most important thing to know about gardening is, as far as being able to plant your garden, is knowing what your frost dates are. Now, in order to know what your frost dates are, you do need to know what zone you're in. But to me, just me personally, I think knowing when your first and last expected frost dates are actually more important than anything else. Like, you have to know when you can plant your garden, or when you can get your transplants into your garden. So here we go. If you look on the back of most seed packets, they are going to have breakdowns of information. Now, every seed packet is different, companies are different, they all mostly have the same information. You can see on these seed packets, they actually have the zones broken down on the seed packet, but that can be incredibly deceiving because, again, Arizona has an area that's in the 4s, but if you look on those seed packets, they show it basically all being 9 and 10. So you need to read the back of the seed packets, make sure that you are planting the correct plants for your area and for your zones. Now, if you look on the back of Baker Creek packets, they all have the same information right up here. Now, of all the information, you want to know if your plant is frost hardy and how many days it takes to sprout. But what this packet doesn't give you is how many days to maturity, from seed to maturity, do you have. So you need to do some research. Some other companies will say how many days to harvest. Incredibly important to know, because you need to know exactly how many days from the moment you put that seed in the ground until you're harvesting that vegetable or fruit, how many days it's going to take. And then you backtrack from your last expected frost date, or for your first expected frost date. So where am I going with all this? The frost dates, to me, are the most important thing in getting your gardens going, or planting prior to your first expected frost date, say in the fall. Now that I've explained exactly what I've been thinking and my views on this whole thing, from here on out on this channel, I'm going to focus solely on frost dates. So when I'm talking about, hey, it's time to get your seeds going, it's time to start planning for this season or that season, that's all going to be based off of the frost dates. Now, I am in zone 9A, so I gear most of my dates toward my zone. But I do want to say this: you need to be 100% proactive on your zone and your frost dates for getting your seeds and your veggies or fruits ready to plant, transplant, or harvest. We just kind of went on a journey of history, gardening, frost dates, a bunch of scientific data that you know, isn't as fun as getting out here and, say, harvesting some peppers or okra or cucumbers. But gardening is a science. So for me, I like to, again, know the science behind everything and the history behind things. So that is why I wanted to do this video, just a little educational video. Maybe it'll help you, maybe it won't. I will say this though, 100% your frost dates are beyond important. Beyond important. All right, everyone, so that's the video. I hope you all learned something from it. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, please share the video, like the video. If you've not subscribed to this channel, I encourage you to do so. Until next time, everyone, take care. God bless. Continue to shine bright and harvest hard. Talk to y'all again real soon. Bye. The zone you're in lets you know, to me, what the most important thing to know about gardening is, as far as being able to plant your garden. Or really? Really?